has blobbed itself into Asia and is going to be one of the dominant powers in the game. 90,000 manpower available to them. They're fairly high on that technology level as well, so they're going to be able to expand quite nicely into Bukhara later on. Bukhara was one of the main reasons that Muscovy couldn't do anything. Muscovy will never turn into Russia in this game, for instance. Yeah, I got a cold. My apologies. That should be better. Alright, that should be optimum. Is the Corinth Canal featured in-game? No, it is not. Is there formable Scandinavia in EU4? Yes, there most definitely is. If you go to Sweden, if you go to the ideas, Scandinavian nation is definitely something you can form. You need Stockholm, Skåne, Västergötland, Sjælland, Midtjylland, and Akerhus. You need to have cores in all those areas and be tech level 10 and be at peace. Also, importantly, you need to be not a subject nation, and then you can create the magnificence that is Scandinavia. And you get the Kalmar Union flag, if I'm not entirely mistaken. Why are Czech provinces in German? It depends on your localization version. I think Scandinavia should not use the oppressive Danish Kalmar Union flag, but a mix of all flags. To be honest, all the Scandinavian nations kind of all have crosses on them, so there's not really all that much you can say about it. It's still going to be a flag with a cross on it. It's kind of like Switzerland. Their flag is a big plus. That's why I like them. Is Scandinavian fixed to not get rid of unique Swedish, etc. events? Don't know. Sweden starts in the Kalmar Union. Yes, it most definitely does, but they don't get the Kalmar Union flag, though. Kiel Canal is so pointless. Well, that's to be argued. Swedish Empire, 20 ducats. Yeah, something like that. What are you considering the new best feature introduced in Res Publica? Interesting question. Interesting question. What is the most interesting feature? I think from a historical simulation point of view, I actually think that I'm a bit of a history nut. I am a bit of a history nut myself when it comes to certain parts of the world, specifically when it comes to colonization and all that. But if you go in the Netherlands have always they have a very interesting diplomatic history, whereas a lot of nations in Europe became aristocracies and kings and all that. The Dutch, for a very long time, had a very strange republic slash what they refer to as a staatsholder setup, where a royal family did kind of rule, but kind of did not. And we're kind of trying to simulate that here with this new system. And I think it adds a certain amount of flavor that makes the nation itself a little bit more historically accurate, even though even though the alternate realism is still a case. It is a feature that it adds more flavor to the Dutch nation. Will you introduce new formable nations in the future? Possibly. Can we actually get rare leaders in republics that don't start with 114, 141, or 411? I'm not sure. I remember very, very, very long time ago when the game was not even released yet, and we had a couple of builds floating around where your leader would be randomly picked like kings, so they would sometimes start as a 641 as a Republican ruler, but that turned out to be incredibly overpowered because in certain republics the vote comes by every 8 years, which causes certain leaders to be incredibly OP when it comes to republics, and that would be a bad thing. So we were probably going to keep the system that we have currently. Undiscovered Atlantic provinces are annoying. Yes, they are. I would love to actually be able to see them. Let's take a look at the Holy Roman Empire map mode, shall we? It's not as creative as the last time. It is the hell. There appear to be a Holy Roman Empire province. Oh, because of the new Netherlands, obviously. Yeah, outside of Europe, you're no longer allowed to have any core provinces. The HRE that has now been changed. So your capital needs to be on the European continent to be part of the HRE. That was something that we changed last expansion. Why is there an Islamic slider? It has to do with the fact, basically, the way the Sunni Shia system works in our game is because I'm actually going to go to it and actually explain it a little bit more in depth. Shia. So basically, we have this slider here. So on one end of the slider, it is lack of piety, and the other one is being pious. Now, because of events, certain things happen, so you can steer your nation towards certain things. So there's modifiers all the way down that change what sort of bonuses you get. So if you want to be, if you want to have a lot of military strength, you need to be pious. If you want to have a lot of technology, there's lack of piety there. Whether or not that's historically accurate is a whole different thing. It's a game mechanic, and it works. It works from a point of view. Also, there's some Sikh going on there. Beta's beta, so. Guys, who should I play in EU4? Well, Dylan the Zombie 33, is this the very first time that that you've played the game, that you've picked it up? Because if it is the very first time you play a game, I suggest, what nation should you play for the very first time? What is easy? The Ottoman Empire comes to mind. It is a very easy starter nation, but it loses a lot of momentum in the middle of the game because the rest of the world starts catching up to them to around tech level 18. France is arguably good to start with. What else? What else? France is a little bit different these days because of nationalism, so it's not as good as it used to be. And that's literally it at the moment. Muscovy. Yes, Muscovy is probably the easiest nation to start with. Yeah, that's a good point. Why is there a piety slider in the Netherlands? Let's go over. It's not a piety. Well, yeah, it's it's placeholder. That's why. It's the Orangists versus the statists. So it's the monarchists versus Republicans. It's like I said, it's beta. A lot of stuff you're gonna see here is placeholder. No, I'm pretty good at the game. Good for you. France is OP. Play them. Well, it can be argued. Does anybody know the requirements for Sikhism to appear? I think it appears randomly, depending on the situation. It's kind of like Protestantism as well as Reformed. Show us the wars. There's a couple of wars going on. Bjorn B, our fancy head of the offices here, is currently in war with the Venetians. Actually, it's the Venetian conquest of Calabria. Where is Calabria? Calabria is right there. It's actually a war started by the Venetians against the Spanish, and the Moroccans were pulled in, which is kind of annoying for them. But Venetians want all of the boot of Italy. What's else going on? Venetians, obviously. Green Gratis is at war with these guys over here, so this war is going on quite nicely. Grugi's at war with the Spanish as well. Alexivan, he's coming out of Spain. Ming is at war also here together with Green Gratis, so this is pretty much all pulled into one war. Palladium, now also being pulled in towards this war. Spain is really on the wrong end of the stick here, because they're on the verge of being invaded by pretty much everybody in the game. There's a big fight going on here. It's in the mountains. Not a very good idea for the Austrians to attack right here, because the Spanish managed to fall back into the mountains with equal armies, and that's generally not a very good idea. Can you fix Ming? They suck now. Well, Ming is a very difficult nation to balance properly. It is arguably one of the stronger nations in the game if they were nerfed. Well, not so much nerfed, but handicapped, so to speak. The way their technology works is they're very internally focused, so from a historical point of view, they wouldn't be all that conquest-like, but we have to model it properly because a nation that size can easily overrun the entire world. And would not have been. It wasn't uncommon in previous iterations of the game, where by the time you discovered the east of Europe as a Western European nation, Ming would already be, almost in Istanbul, and that caused all sorts of problems. So we kind of had to kick it in the knees, so to speak. How does Berja get created? They always appear at some point, but I never see how it happens. It's generally from rebels, or it gets released by the Timurids. Can you add a start date to make it possible to play the Netherlands? Yes, we can already do that. It's the 80-year war or the new... yeah, there's a couple of them where you can play as the Netherlands right off the bat. Just go through the menu. It's right there. Is anybody anything done to prevent Greece from being totally converted to Islam? I don't know. Pass. How do trade companies work like colonial nations? No, they don't. When it comes to the actual map, the trade companies don't actually show. You get a area in the actual trade area right here. So right now you can see that the Portuguese control all of this over here, and basically you have to go to a different map mode in the colonial area, or at least in your area that you control. And then you can see that. You don't actually see it on the standard diplomatic map mode. You have to go to a different mode for it, different map mode for it. Oh look, Danish is Madagascar. Hilarious. Also, Ethiopia has managed to get itself free. Always good times. Can you make the game a bit longer to get into the late 1800s? Well, you can always just get a mod from the workshop. Why is the Dutch liberation event crushed so easily by Austria and France? Well, mainly because it's difficult to model terrain in in the Low Countries, and it wasn't exactly, you know, giant armies fighting giant armies in that case. Add more colonizable provinces to Australia. It's not really realistic within the time frame. What is your favorite superhero? Now there's a question I like. Who is my favorite superhero? My favorite superhero is... I'm gonna get back to you on that. I'm gonna remind it before the end of the stream though, so we'll definitely answer that question. Converting Rome to Coptic, interesting. That would be an interesting one. Small mistake with Münster and Friesland. Münster never really conquered Friesland, but they do in the game. Well, it's all alternate history. Let's take a look here what the world is doing right now. This war is actually getting out of control quite ridiculously. Oman is now joined in this war. This is actually quite a massive war here. There's about 30,000 troops descending upon the Spanish right now. The Spanish themselves, they have slightly less than that. They're going to need some helpers here in order to get this. My god, it's all being blockaded. This is going to be painful, painful, painful. A-Spec, you're Dutch. That I am. Son of Charles V, IV, Philip II. You're talking about, and he sent the Duke of, what was his name? The Duke of Nova? No, that can't be correct. The Duke of, I can't remember his name, but he was a scourge of the Netherlands for a little while. Green Ground, in the meantime, all the war is currently just going on here in Spain. We're all just waiting for people to try to invade the Spanish homeland. It's all because of this province, these provinces that the Venetians want. What was his name? Oh, okay. I'm thinking the wrong one. Is it me or buildings kind of overlooked and difficult to invest? Well, you can always go to a humanist and really reduce the point. No, actually, it's quantity, so you can always reduce the investment points that you need. Duke of Parma, yeah. Alpha, that must be the one. Why isn't there an event for a human player of the Knights to receive Malta? Pass. I'll give it a question. I'll give it an ask to the actual developers in the studio to see what we can do there. Question. I play as Sweden and had a great relationship with Muscovy, then suddenly over a day or two they started to hate me. Have you hard-coded that some certain things should happen at certain points? No, there's minimal railroading in the game, as it's called. It's very sandboxy in a certain way, but if a country wants a certain province because they have a core there, then that will ruin your relationships. In theory, they should never attack you if you keep your relationships above 100 points.